Hey everybody, Hoosier Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking episode 17 of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Turn, Turn, Turn. And, man, this is the one where the fallout from Captain America, the Winter Soldier, hits home. And it easily makes this the best episode of the series so far. And so let's just kind of get into talking about things. And while this is easily one of the best episodes of the series so far, the problem is that clearly everything that they've been doing in Season 1 has been built around waiting for this moment. And it works like such a sucker punch. It's great. But the problem with all of that is that they had to put out so much stuff that was really just like one-shot stories, which is not unusual for a show in its first season to do a lot of self-contained stories to make sure that people are on board with what's going on, they understand how things work, and if they miss an episode, they don't feel overwhelmed. That's standard operating procedure for a lot of shows in their first season. Also, every show in its first season tends to have some growing pains while people settle into their roles. The writers and the producers and the directors all figure out the right rhythm for the show. But unfortunately, this took about two-thirds, more than two-thirds really, of the show's first season. And by then, a lot of people had just dropped S.H.I.E.L.D. from their viewing rotation. There's just too much stuff out there for people to watch these days. And this is, of course, really hoping that people would come back. Now, I have a feeling people who went and saw Winter Soldier over the weekend probably thought, well, hey, what's going to happen with those Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. guys? Now, I'm not really somebody who pays that much attention to the ratings, but we'll see. But it is interesting to note that this is the one show on ABC at this point that has not been either canceled or given a renewal for a second season. But given ABC's ties to being part of the Disney family, Marvel being part of the Disney family, I can't think that unless the show's ratings are absolutely abysmal, that this isn't going to get a second season. But again, that hasn't been confirmed yet. Anyway, so for this review, let's just kind of do what we normally do. Let's talk about the characters in rotation, and then we'll talk about the plot in general, and whatever. Okay, but first of all, before we actually get into the characters, I love how this show starts off with music from Blue Oyster Cult. I mean, Fear the Reaper is one of those songs that just has become kind of a cliche after so many years. I think this song is from, what, the 70s or something like that? You know, very much the sort of stuff you hear from on the soundtrack to early seasons of Supernatural or whatever. But, you know, it's Blue Oyster Cult, and they're great. And it's one of those shows that it just works in so many situations. And actually, it kind of helped that I was actually listening to some Blue Oyster Cult recently, so points to the show for that. But anyway, so the big character. Okay. Oh no. First of all, I called it. I called it last week that Garrett was the clairvoyant. So points to me for that one. And the reason, like I said, you could tell that Garrett was obviously going to be the clairvoyant was obviously being betrayed by somebody you consider a close friend, Coulson. Emotional gut punch. We've seen he was Ward's superior officer, gut punch. Taking that time to bond with Skye, gut punch. So the whole thing with Garrett, again, turning out to be the clairvoyant, this one really hits the agents where they hurt, since, you know, he was basically there fighting by their side. They had every reason in the world to think that this is somebody they could trust. And of course, it was also sort of hinted at, if you really think about it in a meta way, that the clairvoyant was going to be that Garrett was going to be the clairvoyant, was the fact that he's played by Bill Paxton. And come on, Bill Paxton. Bill Paxton is great with sleazy jerk characters that you want to hate. So yeah, just kind of take note of that there. And I love how this whole thing is he doesn't even really believe in what Hydra is selling. but he just kind of went along with him because he saw which way the wind was blowing. He's a guy who believes in looking out for number one. And I love that sort of half-hearted, whatever kind of Hail Hydra that he gives. And I also like that this was the only time that anybody in the show really said Hail Hydra. Now, I know that's going to upset people. I've even seen people online saying, "Oh, I was expecting there to be more Hail Hydras in this one, Hail Hydra in this when they broke it out." Well, here's the thing: Hail Hydra is really, really kitschy. I mean, it's the sort of thing that it works in a comic book universe where everything is exaggerated and it makes sense. It makes sense if coming out of those old 60s spy movies, which is where Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. all have their roots in those sort of things, like Bond movies. But here in 2014, you got to go really lightly on that stuff, or it just becomes so easy to ridicule and it's impossible to take seriously. And I think there might have also been some issues with the whole fact that, and as it is acknowledged by the people here in the movie and on the show, that Hydra spun out of the Nazis. They were originally the Nazis' deep science division, as they explained in the first Captain America movie. They went rogue. Now, obviously, Hydra has stepped away from the Nazis' racial philosophy in terms of a more general, just order through strength and all this other BS that bad guys have been spouting for centuries, as to kind of justify what it is they're doing. But anyway, getting back to Garrett, you got to give Bill Paxton, lots of points for just really obviously having a good time with this and really playing up the whole situation. And I love how the things are left open at the end, that we might see a little bit more of him before the season is out. Now, this wouldn't really surprise me if he might become a sort of a reoccurring nemesis for the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They can't really have someone like Red Skull out there, but the agent that stabbed Coulson in the back and is out there, kind of routinely causing him trouble. Okay, that could be good. Or he could just have a really spectacular blowout at the end of the season. Who knows? But anyway, so that's what we have from Garrett. So let's move on to Ward. Now, Ward, man, just from the beginning of this episode, there was just something about what was going on with him that made me feel weird. And I was like, I don't know, man. Something about this whole situation. And like when Skye gave him that disc full of all the secrets from the bus, which they never mention again. Note that. It's like, man, I have a bad feeling about this. And check my Twitter account. I called that there was something up with Ward before the reveal. All right? I'm genre savvy enough that I can sense that. I'm so happy. And of course, there's the whole thing where, turns out Ward is apparently still working for Hydra. Now, there's the question as well: is he being controlled? Is he just is he being controlled like Deathlock is? Of course, you have to wonder what all this whole situation actually means for Deathlock. Is he still under Hydra's control, or has he been freed? Is he actually a double agent? Was he sent to free Garrett, so that Garrett is obviously going to take them to another Hydra base so that he can lead the remnants of S.H.I.E.L.D. there to take down those bad guys? Are Victoria Hand and those two guys really dead? I mean, they seriously look dead, and if they're not, well, they're probably getting flown to a Hydra base or someplace in Hydra's control. But I have the feeling that there's more to what's going on with Ward still. It wouldn't surprise me if there's more turns going on there for what's happening with Ward. But I have to say the biggest tip-off to what was going on with Ward was just that whole big scene with him kind of like acknowledging that he has some genuine feelings for Skye. And I do love that whole scene moment where she goes, I'm not going to have sex with you. And it's really just this hilarious scene of Ward just like trying to no, I just want to have a drink. But this was there, I think, for the Tumblr crowd, and oh boy, did the Tumblr crowd go nuts for that one. I mean, never mind that, from what it looks like, Ward has apparently murdered 3 good guys, including Victoria Hand, who, despite being an ass, would be a real major asset to the good guys in turn taking the fight back to Hydra, or at least keeping as many S.H.I.E.L.D. agents who are good guys alive long enough to start rallying or turning things around so that somebody can really start putting the hurt back on Hydra. And now she's apparently dead at Ward's hands. So, but then again, shipping crowds have never been the sort of folks to let a character committing cold-blooded murder stand in the way of an OTP. But anyway, what I like about what's been going on with Ward here is that if you look back at the season, you can really see things that make Ward being a traitor make sense. Okay, for example, look at how he deals with the rest of the team. Saves Simmons' life. She trusts him. Goes on that mission where he becomes buds with Fitz. Fitz trusts him. Starts sleeping with May. She trusts him. She becomes Guy's senior officer. She trusts him. Warms up, does bonding stuff with the team, proves himself to be a good soldier. Coulson trusts him. Everybody trusts Ward, which is why they never see it coming. And remember what Lorelei said when she had Ward under her control about the darkness within him. Ooh, interesting, huh? Interesting. So yeah, I still think that there's more to Ward than what it seems, because I mean, I basically at that last scene I'm saying is like, okay, if he says "Hail Hydra," I know for sure that he's a bad guy. No Hail Hydra. So yeah, Ward is still a big question mark. Now Skye, not a whole lot to say about this episode. Obviously, she's going to take Ward betraying the team pretty darn hard. But yeah, again, that whole shipping thing, that was basically really all I have to say about Skye this time around. But still, it is nice to see her getting out there and proving that she's, well, getting shot in the stomach has apparently improved her ability to work out in the field at least slightly. She doesn't get shot in the stomach this episode, so yeah. Now, speaking of shooting, let's kind of move on to Fitz. And this episode is another kind of evolution in Fitz sort of stepping up and becoming a little bit more of a physical character. I mean, he he apparently genuinely killed somebody this episode. And I like how they took a moment to show that really, really rattled him. Fitz is not that kind of a guy. He doesn't want to be that kind of a guy. But we've seen in that episode in Russia that if he needs to, he found it within himself to really man up and do the hard thing. And that's a really great way for his character to go. And I also like how when when given the chance by Hand, he does not betray the team. And even when it's like he's about to watch Coulson and such get murdered by Garrett and then knowing that either way he's either basically going to have to join Hydra or be tortured. Fitz, I mean, he cries. He knows that bad stuff's about to go down, and he's going to have it probably the worst of anybody, but he still refuses to join Hydra, which shows that Fitz is a guy with some real solid emotional character. And of course, obviously, he and Ward had kind of bonded, become buds. That's not going to go. I mean, Fitz is going to take that hard, but you have to wonder if maybe part of Ward's decision to sort of make friends with Fitz might have noticed that Fitz was a little bit jealous of what was going on, of Simmons maybe paying a little bit of attention to him. Yeah. Now, speaking of Simmons, not a whole lot to say about her this episode. Just they continue to show scenes with her and Triplet. Obviously they're kind of setting things up for maybe more love triangle stuff with Fitz, Simmons, and her. Ugh. a Fitzsimmons triplet love triangle down the road. I think romance is going to be taking a pretty serious backseat for most people for the rest of the season, though. But also, the way things are set up, that this is kind of putting Triplet in a position where he could be a replacement for Ward. And frankly, I think that would actually be a good idea. I think I'm okay with this idea because, well, let's face it. At this point, the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. have been a bunch of white people and an Asian chick. The one significant black character, well, he's Deathlock now, and I don't really think Deathlock quite works as an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. or whatever it is these guys are going to be in the future. Triplet is somebody who we've seen is obviously not a Hydra agent. He has completely stood up. He is absolutely outraged that Garrett has betrayed him. So yeah, Triplet coming on board as a replacement for Ward, that makes sense. But actually it is a little bit disappointing that really Simmons didn't have that much to do this episode besides what was going on with her. She was kind of there to facilitate communication. Not a whole lot otherwise going on with Simmons. May. Well, here we continue to see that Coulson, the whole dynamic between her and Coulson, Coulson flat out says that she's not his friend anymore. Now, she's able to regain some degree of his trust, and Coulson flat out tells her, you're not my friend anymore, but I consider you my ally. And, of course, we get some really serious hints that May has feelings for Coulson, but we get the real shocker that she's the one that assembled the team. And I love how she lays that out very matter-of-factly as to why everybody was chosen and how it was all put in Coulson's head. And, well, again, you got to there's got to be another showdown between May and Ward in the future. That's just too cool to not happen. But what was really great this episode was watching just May's conflict. Her desire, I want to be able to tell you the truth, but I can't. And of course, it was really no surprise that she was actually working for Fury. I mean, I never really gave any serious consideration to May being a traitor or a bad guy. They were sort of hinting at it too strongly for it to actually be true. But I do like that relief where when she can finally, really level with Coulson about what's going on. And even when she can get out there and kind of help put things right as best she can. So this sort of leaves May in a really interesting place. The one person that she probably trusts most, well, he's not her biggest fan at the moment. And now the guy that she's sleeping with has betrayed them. So, yeah, talk about another real emotional sucker punch for May, who part of her real character growth this season has been learning to be emotional and caring about others and interacting with others again. And yeah, okay, I guess that brings us to Coulson. And what I've kind of, when I was thinking about this episode earlier, I kind of realized something. In some ways, Phil Coulson is really the Ned Stark of S.H.I.E.L.D. Or I don't know if you could exactly say the Marvel Universe, Marvel Cinematic Universe, but he and Captain America are cut from the same cloth in that they are both honorable men who are trying to do the right thing when they are surrounded by people who are less than honorable. And of course, this is kind of a theme in Winter Soldier with Cap's interactions with Black Widow and Nick Fury. But here, Coulson is a guy who has sacrificed everything for S.H.I.E.L.D. He's sacrificed the chance for a normal life. He's sacrificed the chance, well, he basically had a chance stolen away from him to be with a woman he clearly loved by Loki. All of it. All the stuff that Coulson has spent pretty much his entire adult life fighting for and believing in. And he's turned out to be nothing but a dupe. So what happens here? Well, and then you have to look at the whole thing with what Fury did to him. It kind of makes sense in more retrospect. It's like Fury has to say, okay, despite what he says in the movie, I don't trust anyone, Coulson is one of the few people that Fury clearly really trusted. And you can see that's why he was so reluctant that he moved heaven and earth to keep Coulson alive, to bring Coulson back from the dead. But now you gotta wonder, Well, if May assembled the team and that idea was put literally in Coulson's head, well, who's to say that Hydra didn't put something in there as well? And you have to wonder if Coulson's even thought of that. Bet you that some of the people around him have, at least the ones who know what happened to him. So ominous. Not a whole lot to say about Victoria Hand as a character. Yeah, I think that covers everybody as a character. So let me just kind of glance at my notes here. Oh yeah, I like how they make mention of this whole thing being a level of some of the stuff going on being a level 8 operation. If you pay attention to Captain America Winter Soldier, you see that Captain America's clearance level is 8. And what's interesting is just in the first episode, Coulson says, "Welcome to level 7," which means Captain America is actually only one clearance level higher than the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which to me just seems like complete and utter BS. But I'm used to the comics where Captain America has been unthawed for something like 10 years. Everybody, like all the heroes, know we can trust Captain America. Here, Cap is much more of an anomaly. Like Fury knows Cap is a good guy, and he obviously does places a great deal of faith in him. But Cap is also a guy who is, well, we'll talk about this in the Winter Soldier review. Let me see. Oh yeah. When they're flying the plane, Garrett identifies the plane as by the call sign S.H.I.E.L.D. 616. 616 in the Marvel multiverse is the number of the official reality of the Marvel universe. There's all these alternate. If you're not familiar with the comics, there's all these alternate realities out there that heroes have visited or have been shown in what if alternate reality stories. And what Marvel does, and this is really cool, although DC does do something similar, is they give each of these alternate realities a number, a unique number. I think the reality for the Marvel Cinematic Universe is something like 1,900,000 1 and then 5 nines. I can't talk, or something like that. 2,000, 100,000 minus 1 is the I think is the official number of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And that, so I just love how Marvel is just like, yeah, it's one of our alternate universes. I don't know why I like that so much. I guess it's just because I'm always a fan of alternate reality stories. So let me see here. Oh yeah, I got a kick out of how apparently Garrett, in addition to his love of Blue Oyster Cult, apparently is a fan of Happy Days. Some of the things he said there were obvious references to Happy Days characters. So I guess Garrett's tastes run a little bit towards retro 70s. Yeah, one complaint that I do have about this episode is when they see the out of the darkness into the light Hydra. This guy immediately is like, "Oh my God, Hydra still exists and it's infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D." And it's like, okay, did you go and see Captain America: The Winter Soldier over the weekend, Sky? Because if not, you're jumping to some awfully big conclusions. And heck, if anybody should be able to like pull those facts together like that, it should be Coulson, not you. Let me see. Oh yeah, I definitely like how that when Victoria Hand read that laundry list of why she thinks Coulson is working for Hydra, and it all makes perfect sense from her perspective. But then again, I think a lot of people are saying like, you know what Coulson's doing here is really, really not smart. We understand why Coulson is doing it, but Coulson is, I think, guilty of thinking way too much with his heart and not enough with his head. And that's what makes him a very likable protagonist. He does the wrong thing for the right reasons. And it blows up in his face. They also liked how they mentioned the top brass at S.H.I.E.L.D. at one point. Now, obviously, this references Fury, but this is also a reference to the character of Pierce from Winter Soldier, and we all know what happens with him. Oh, man. Robert Redford. Man, you gotta love the cinematic universe. I definitely liked... Oh, yeah, it was also very cool to see them actually incorporating some of the footage from the fight at the Triskelion from Winter Soldier. That was really cool. And I just somehow got a big kick out of them saying, Captain America has defeated Hydra at the Triskelion. It just, I don't know why, just acknowledging that. I mean, obviously this is all tied into the events of the Captain America movie, but just seeing them actually talking about the events that are just so fresh in my mind from that universe, it's just really cool. And it's just fun when the characters on the show mention members of the Avengers flat and outright. So, of course, we're now all wondering, well, what's going to happen with these guys next? Obviously, survival is on the agenda. I can't talk. I'm thinking that we might be looking at seeing another appearance by Samuel L. Jackson in the season finale, and they're going to use that again to tie into Winter Soldier, but also to give us an idea of what is going to be these guys' mission statement starting in season 2. And I'm sure that there's going to be a season 2. And if now that the Hydra is out of the bag, if they can start telling stories with a lot more punches along the way, again, kind of like what they do on Arrow, then I have a feeling that season 2 of the show really does have the potential to be spectacular. But as Doctor Who says, time will tell. It always does. So guys, until next time, you can of course follow me on Twitter at Who's Your Jedi, and until next time, take care and have a good one.